My name is Jasmine, and I will be doing the collaborations needed as well as the risk characterization. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Collaborations needed. Under the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, also known as the EPCRA, Section 304 requires facilities to follow specific emergency release notification requirements and share that information with the local community. So one group that NGC will need to have fluid communication with is the Local Emergency Planning Committee, also known as the LEPC. This group is required to make their own emergency response plan based off of information given to them by local businesses and relay that information to the community in the event of a major spill or a release. They are there to help first responders know how to react, what the health effects are, and what to do if evacuation may be needed, or how to handle if someone has ingested the chemical or come in contact with the chemical. So our initial contact with the head of the LEPC, Amanda Clayton, will just be a phone meeting. This will be to introduce ourselves, to let her know of the risk assessment that's taking place, and to also set up a future meeting upon completion of our risk assessment. So following the completion of our final risk assessment, we will have an in-person meeting with Ms. Clayton. During this time, the entire risk assessment team will be present to answer any questions that she may have on potential hazards and how they could affect the local community as well as nearby businesses. NGC will also need to keep an open relationship with Ms. Clayton and the LEPC, as the emergency response plan requires yearly updating. So if NGC at any time has a larger amount of chemicals stored on site or has any increase in major releases, this will need to be documented and given to Ms. Clayton every year so she can update her emergency response plan accordingly. So this is one partnership that NGC will need to be sure to be very active in and make sure any information is documented and given to her yearly so that she has all of the information that she needs to generate her response plan and help the community know what to do in the event of a major release or spill. Pause. Oh God. Hope that was okay. I'm so nervous. I've done this a million times. I hope this is the last time. Okay. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Risk characterization. So, as the last step in an environmental risk assessment, the goal of risk characterization is to gain an understanding of any adverse effects that a chemical or emission may cause to human health and relay that information to the risk manager. So, the risk of lead exposure from NGC is relatively low. While lead does pose a threat to human health if ingested, the chance of exposure coming from the facility is low for the local community. So this is under the assumption that there will not be any increase in spills or any increase in releases, and that there will not be any major spills in the near future. So this can't be guaranteed, but the strength in our assumption comes from past release information. So our information comes from the most recent reporting year, which is 2019, and the total releases of lead and lead compounds into the air came to be 109 pounds. However, the the risk screening environmental indicator, or RSEI score, only came to be a 2, which is very low on the scale. And in order to ensure that there's no threat to employee health while working at NGC, the facility will follow OSHA's lead testing requirements. So an initial air sample will be taken to see if there's any lead present in the air, and if so, how much. So if any air sampling is done and the levels are found to be over the action level of 30 micrograms, air sampling will need to be done every 6 months to monitor those levels to ensure there isn't any increase. If the air sampling is done and the amount is found to be over 50 micrograms, there will need to be air sampling every 3 months to monitor those levels. So in the event of an increase of lead into the air, the risk manager will need to take necessary precautions to protect workers by providing them with respiratory protection and other personal protective equipment. At NGC, the risk of lead exposure is low for both employees as well as the local community and the environment. So there have been violations in the past, as we've mentioned, from the Clean Air Act. However, the releases from the reporting year 2019, those releases were off-site. So to address any uncertainties for future preparedness of lead releases, the risk manager can create additional what-if scenarios that encompass a large amount of releases into either the air or water, since the plant is very close to an open body of water. And this can help generate proper response plans in the event of a major spill or in the event of an accidental release, and help the risk manager at NGC be prepared for any scenario. And done, I hope.